Hello friends, my name is Shivam from DevOps Schools and I will help you to enable your learning process in various technologies of DevOps, artificial intelligence, machine learning, big data and many more. This is our initiative to help you by sharing multiple tutorials and videos. And if you want any specific tutorials on any particular topic, then please do comment in the below comment section and I will help you with it. Also, please subscribe to our premium services on YouTube, which will give you access to more content and videos to enhance your knowledge about all these topics. Also, if you want me to help you with regards to the online trainings and classroom sessions by our qualified trainers, then please do write me at contact@devopsschool.com.
Right now, he said FTP request. I can replace it with HTTP request. I can do that. Correct? So IP snooping attack, or you can say man in middle attack. Okay, this is a person who is sitting. But remember that man in middle attack is only technically possible if you inside the organization. If you outside the organization, man in middle attack is not possible. Correct? Or whatever protocol or packet and protocol abuse attack is available or IP snooping attack is available, it is only possible when you are trying to access it from your internally network. If I'm externally outside, then it is very difficult to detect your network in over the internet. It is not technically possible. So here what I am doing, I am actually manipulating the data packet which is transferring from one location to another location by capturing that data packet and sending it forward. Very interesting, but lot of efforts are required over here in order to go for IP snooping, correct, packet abuse, this kind of type of attack, correct. After that, denial of service. Now this is very popular, very easy to do. The very respectable command which can be possible is nothing but our ping command can also do DOS, denial of service. Remember that. A very simple command is what? Ping. Okay. This command can also do this attack. Nowadays, we have an option for that, but in early days, this was a very powerful command for this. Now, what happened in denial of service? I will try to send, I will try to flood the server with unreal traffic, correct? Now, you can see this particular server, let's say this particular server do have a capacity to handle the 1000 requests at a given point of a time. This is my web server, correct? Now, denial of service attack means I want to stop the service of this particular server. If I stop the service, ultimately what happened? The actual user who is accessing this service, they won't be able to access this website, correct? I want to stop this particular application in any given point of a time. I want to stop that particular running server. I want to interrupt the service which is running on that particular server, correct? So let's say the capacity of this server is to handle 1000 requests per second, which is coming to the server. So DOS attack, what he will do, I will install some software on this particular laptop and I will tell him, okay, this is your target, correct? And I will tell my particular software that you need to create 10,000 sessions per second on that server. Now imagine my capacity is only 1000, but this software will emulate that at one given point time, 10,000 servers are actually 10,000 connections are actually coming to the server. Now, what will happen in this particular case? Whatever bandwidth, whatever consumption of the server which is required, it is choked up now. Now, am I actually want to access this 10,000 users are accessing this server? No, these are fake users. You're just emulated sessions over here. 10,000 user are accessing, you're emulating that 10,000 customers are parallelly accessing your website, but technically hacker is doing this. Correct? Ultimately, what happened? Your server would be slow, your network bandwidth would be chopped up, and if there is another real user is available who really want to access this particular website, he won't be able to access it because this service is no more available because this particular guy overloaded the server. Now, such type of attack is possible with the help of DOS attack. Correct? There is one more category called as DDoS. This is called as distributed denial of service. Correct? Now nowadays DOS attack could be detectable. The immediately my firewall would be able to detect which is the IP address where all these requests are coming from. So he will stop that particular IP address immediately. He will block it. Such kind of facilities are not available. Same thing is happened with the ping. If I start pinging a server rigorously, after some time, firewall will block that particular IP address to ping it from. Correct? But there is one more technique is designed and developed by hacker. They say distributed denial of service. They are not using only one computer now. They are using multiple computer across the globe, which is physically, logically, completely in a different location. And all are started now bombarding. Now firewall would get confused now because the requests are coming from distributed fashion across the globe. This is called as DDoS. So distributed denial of service attack. Correct? Very effective if you want to go for DOS because this is practically tried and tested by me and it is working. There are many organizations who is actually trying to find out how to stop this particular type of attack. But there is a concept called as, if you know that the concept is called as Tor, or there is a concept called as proxy chains. With the help of these two, if I configure this particular attack, it is really undetectable in order to stop that denial of service in a distributed fashion. Correct? So this is one type of attack that will stop your service. Correct? You can see DDoS, distributed denial of service, reflective, DNS amplifications, deauthentication. These all are different type of DOS attack. Now I will tell you DNS amplification. Now this is something which you can stop your DNS server. Correct? Now I will flood your system in such a way that your DNS server won't be able to query anything from a real customer. Okay, so I will stop the DNS server. Similarly, I can stop the DHCP server as well. Correct? So there are different way we will be using in order to stop your server. I told you ping is a very basic command which we are using. Correct? Now these are the type of denial of service attack. Now this is a man in middle attack. I told you that man in middle attack would be looking like this. Correct? There has to be a person which is in between you who can capture your packets and will make sure whatever packet he would captured, he would modify that particular packet and he will send the reply. Correct? Now, man in middle attack, you should be the part of that particular network first. Correct? Man in middle attack won't be possible over the internet. It should be possible when you should be the part of that particular network. Correct? So if this computer want to send something to this computer, what man in middle attack will do, he will capture the packet from this particular computer. He will modify that particular packet and send it back. Correct? Whenever the reply comes to him, whatever confidential information he wants, he will capture it. He will put some fake information and forward it to him. Correct? Literally, people are doing this. There are many applications who actually do this thing, man in middle attack. Correct? Whatever sensitive data which you are transferring, I told you Wireshark, install Wireshark on your computer. You can see lot of activity which is happening within your network. You can see that. Wireshark is actually network capturing tool, but people can use that particular software for man in middle attack also. The only beautiful thing is our network is encrypted. So whatever data which you are transmitting, the packet size, you can capture it, no doubt about it. You will see the entire header part of it, you no doubt about it. However, you won't be able to see the data inside the data packet. The reason why? Because the data inside the packet is encrypted. Correct? So man in middle attack is most common in layer 2. Be careful, whatever information which you are sharing across your network, make sure that you should share that information with secured protocol only. Do not try to use any unsecured protocol. ARP cache poisoning. Now, this is a type of man in middle attack, DNS poisoning and VLAN hopping. Okay, I will explain you here what is ARP caching, ARP poisoning. Now let's say I told you what is the function of ARP. Now let's say this is my computer A, this is my attacker's computer, and this is my target system. So you can see this is computer 1. You can say this is my source, correct? And this is my target computer, and this is my hacker computer. Correct? We know that ARP is a protocol who always broadcast the MAC address is equal to IP address to everyone within his broadcast domain or within his collision domain. You can say that. Correct? So let's say the IP address of this computer would be 192.168.1.100 and MAC address would be, for example, the MAC address would be 0011223344. Now this is the MAC address, correct? Now you can imagine this computer will send the ARP traffic to everyone. And in that ARP traffic, what is contained? This entry is contained. This computer is saying, I am 192.168.1.100 and my MAC address is this. Now this broadcast will reach to this computer. Correct? I told you that every computer do have ARP table. In that ARP table, this computer would maintain all the ARP information. Correct? Now this is my real source and this is my real target. Now what ARP poisoning would happen? Now what hacker will do? Hacker will start ARP poisoning. He will start creating ARP traffic, but which is a fake ARP traffic. What he will do by saying how he is poisoning, he will say, I am 0011223344. That means exact same MAC address, but he will put his own IP address over there. That means original computer is here, correct? But he will put his own, means hacker's IP address over here and start sending some ARP messages across all your collision domain. Now what happened? That ARP comes to this particular computer. He will come to know, oh, there is one more entry. There is one more entry, same MAC address, but different IP address. He would replace it rather. Okay, majority cases he would replace the previous entry. Now what happen if this computer want to send any particular data to this MAC address? Is he going to send it to this computer? Is it going to send it to this computer, or is it going to send it to this computer? My computer, it gets confused now, because this guy started ARP poisoning. Okay, that means he's modifying this particular entry by sending some fake ARP traffic, and he replaced this entry, which was the real one, and he replaced the fake entry. So if the computer want to send the data to this particular MAC address, actually he's by default sending the data to the hacker. This particular technique is called as ARP poisoning. Correct? Now we do have a solution for this. Don't worry about that. ARP ARP poisoning, we do have an option that we can stop it. If somebody is sending tremendous amount of ARP signals, and which is a fake signals, we do have an option, we can detect it. So don't worry about that. Such kind of options, we can stop it now. Correct? Now second one is called as DNS snooping, or you can say, oh, okay, we can say DNS poisoning. Now this is very important. Okay. Now don't worry about VLAN hopping. I will tell you VLAN hopping when we discuss about switching, because you should know what exactly VLAN actually works. Then only you will be able to understand. But we will see what is the DNS server can do. Now let's say this is my computer source and this is my DNS server. Okay, in my organization, I do have own my DNS server. Okay, it contains all the entries. That means your website name www.mangesh.com. If someone asks me where is mangesh.com, I should provide him 192, for example, 88.100.10.20. So this is my real entry. Correct? Now, if the person is sitting over here, he want to go to this website. So he will go to the browser www.mangesh.com. Okay, he press enter, but he would like to go for name resolution. So he will go to the DNS server. He will go to DNS database. He will query it. He will come to know that, okay, if I want to go to www.mangesh.com, his IP address is 88.100.20.30. That's great. So my computer will try to go to IP address called 100. Sorry, 20.
Hey viewers, our Master in DevOps engineering program can help you to hone the skills necessary to succeed in high-level DevOps positions. So, what are you waiting for? Enroll now and earn certification that show you are keeping pace with today's technical roles and requirements. Contact info is mentioned in the video sidebars and in the description box. Book your seats for the upcoming batches now.
30. Correct? This is a normal way to handle it. Now let's see what hacker can do. Hacker will start sending the DNS poisoning messages. He's trying to connect with the DNS Okay, so hacker's IP address. So what he will do, he will poison the DNS server. He will replace the original entry and he put his IP address as a hacker IP address is equal to mangesh.com. Now, whenever this particular client want to go to mangesh.com, where it is going? It is going to the hacker's computer. Correct? It is not going to the actual mangesh.com, it is going to the your hacker's computer. Correct? So this is very important type of attacks which we need to stop. Now all these type of attacks, either it comes under the layer 2 attacks. Correct? Under the layer 2 attacks, we want the person should be insider. Correct? The person should be the part of network. If it is outsider, I told you, malware is the best possible attack which you can go with. Correct? Don't worry about VLAN hopping. VLAN is a technique. I told you that it's a small virtual LAN. Correct? I talked about it a little bit. Okay, I will discuss it because anyhow we need to discuss about VLAN. So you can see. Okay, if this is my switch, yesterday I told you within the switch, it is my switch, and this is my second switch. Correct? Every switch do have small ports over here. Okay, I told you that I can group this particular port and create a different VLANs. Okay, I will create a different VLAN over here. I will create a different VLAN over here. These both the VLANs are completely different. Okay, this VLAN is completely different. This VLAN is completely different. They cannot be able to talk with each other because the network of this VLAN is different and network of this VLAN is completely different. Correct? But what VLAN hopping says? Correct? VLAN hopping says that at a method when attacking on a host on a VLAN gain the traffic on others VLANs. That means I am trying to gain the access of these VLANs. I am the part, this is my hacker's computer. Let's say this is my hacker's computer. Okay, I am the part of this VLAN and I do have another computer connected over here. Now I want to capture the traffic of this computer. Now hacker want to see what he's doing. But technically speaking, these two VLANs are different. This particular guy won't be able to see what he's doing because both the VLANs are different. Rather, they are connected with the same switch, no doubt about it. Same physical switch, but technically the VLANs are different. Now, if I would like to capture such kind of thing, what I will do, I will start sending a broadcasting packet. Okay, I will start sending the broadcasting packet in a such a way that he will start connecting me to this VLAN. I will start telling this particular switch, oh, I'm not the part of this VLAN, I'm the part of this VLAN actually. But technically he's the part of this VLAN physically. But I'm sending some fake packets, which is actually telling my switch, I am technically the part of this VLAN. So what my switch can do, switch will immediately start sending all the data to this particular port as well. Correct? So he's something called as VLAN tagging. Switch do have a very good feature to stop it. Don't worry about that. We do have a concept called as port security, which will help you to stop such kind of attacks. Correct? So this is what they are talking about in your VLAN hopping. Correct? So remember, this complete chapter will give you the idea what are the different type of security bugs are there. It could be the physical security, it could be data loss, it could be malware, it could be some kind of a poisoning attack, password attacks. These all type of attacks will be available. Now in this chapter, it is a simple one chapter, but there are many attacks are available. If you are going for hacking course or a security course, you will be getting They will explain you how these attacks are actually works, what is the anomaly of this particular attack, and how we can stop it. Correct. So there are many attacks are available. Correct. Now these are the most common attacks which we can see in our networking environment, and in the next chapter we are going to see how we can stop such attacks. Correct. Now the next chapter will consider you or will tell you how we can stop this attack. Now we understand what are the security breaches, means what are the security problems. Now we will see in this chapter how we can implement that security. Correct. How we can implement that security, or what are the security measures which we need to do it. Correct. So there are few controls they are given in this particular section. The control would be authentication, how we can manage the authentication, means username, password, that kind of stuff. Access control mechanism, how we can go for access control. Then try to make sure that your logical port should not be open. What are the different type of secured protocols which you can use. Correct. Don't worry about wireless network security. It is not that much important at this moment of time. Patches and update, yes, there should be some patches and update should be there. Mitigation techniques, now you should have some mitigation, means how to stop or how to patch that security gap. Okay, means a solution, what are the different solutions are available in this. Correct. So let's talk about authentication mechanism. Now what is a normal authentication mechanism which we have? A triple A, that is called as authentication, authorization, and accounting. Correct. Authentication means he will check the username, password, means credential mechanism. Authorization, make sure that you are, whether you are authorized to go for it or not, he would be able to check that. Accounting means he will make sure that whatever you are doing, you should not denied any action. That means he is actually creating and managing every auditing logs that you should not deny for that particular part. This is called as accounting. Correct. So there are triple A. Now you can see we do have a very good framework is available called as Radius server, TechAx server, or TechAx Plus or Diameter. These are actually remote networking authentication protocol who can do all these three things. Okay, whatever username, password which we are using for our internet service provider, that is nothing but a Radius implementation. Okay, username, password authentication for Cisco devices is TechAx. We will see this, how we can configure this TechAx server. Correct. So first we need to understand authentication mechanism. Either I can use this implementation, or either if I do have any other option to authenticate it, that's fine, no problem at all. So you can see authentication means we are going to give you a particular authority to log in or connect or session establishment. That means if I try to go to email server, he will ask me, oh, kindly provide me your username and password. Once you provide me username and password, then only I will allow you to connect it. Correct? Authorization would be done after authentication. Correct. So first I need to provide you a proper username and password. Correct. Now make sure that this particular username and password method which we are implementing, it has to be very, very confidential. You're not supposed to disclose any information about your authentication servers at all. If any given point of chance, if the person get the access of this particular server, you're lost. or any particular time where you kept all the credentials, you got a very, very problematic situation. So simple mechanism is there. Normally, nowadays we are using a complete different mechanism system. We are using identity federation and all other things. But currently the basic mechanism till the date we are using is called as username and password. There should be some server where my computer can take my username and password. He will go to the server. He will submit the username and password. This server will go to the backend database where username and password are kept. He will match that particular user and password into the database. Database server will say, oh, it is correct. Then this server will say, okay, you are authorized. Your authentication is successful. You are not authorized. Your authentication would be successful. Correct? Now you can see here authentication factor. Now, how do I authenticate? Either I can authenticate by the password. Yes, I can do that. Either I can authenticate by a token. Yes, sometimes you can see RSA tokens are given to you. So that is could be done. Sometimes it could be giving you the authentication by fingerprints like a biometrics. Correct? So sometime it will be give you the access to your retina pattern. Actually, now we are not using a retina pattern over here till the date, but yes, fingerprints is acceptable. Somewhere geographical location. Now geographical authentication is also possible. Remember that. Nowadays we are using this particular thing for school buses, cab services or not. Correct? Wherever you are there on that particular place or not, if you are in that particular place, then only it will authenticate. Such kind of geo based geographical based authentications are available. Correct? Sometime your some keystroke logger or any kind of a certificate based authentication, that is also possible. But the most common thing which we know, that password based access is the most important method for. Correct? Now authentication factor. Correct? Now sometime I do have a username, I need to take the password. I have to make sure that both the technique should be available. Means username has to be correct and password has to be correct. Similarly, our bank ATM card, you obviously you should have this particular chip. It does contain some information about your account. If you do not have any of either this, I won't be able to authenticate. So every authentication mechanism do have some authentication factor. Correct? Now here is the interesting thing. This is called as MFA, multiple factor authentication. Now you can see majority of people now started using this multi-factor authentication technique. Now this is a factor. This is a two-factor authentication. Okay, the factor means username and password. Here name, card, and PIN. Correct. Now I am talking about multi-factor authentication. That means more than two now. Correct. I am typing the username and password. Correct. It will get authentication. Plus, I will get an OTP on my mobile number. Without that OTP, I would not be able to pass the second authentication. Now, this is the most of the banking environment. They are using multi-factor authentication as a very secured mechanism to do that. You might be seeing while you are creating or log into your bank account through website, you will type your bank account number, your password. Immediately, whatever registered mobile which you are using for your bank, on that particular number, you will get a OTP. Without that OTP, you won't be able to access it. Correct? I'm using a cloud-based account. In that cloud-based account is also same. I type the username and password, but he will be asking me for RSA key. Without that RSA key, the third factor, he won't be able to get login. So this is the most secured way in order to authenticate yourself. But once again, I'm talking about security perspective. That means your password now safe. Your password attacks will not do anything at this moment of time, because you will crack the password, but password is not the only authenticator factor now. One more authentication factor is available. You won't be able to crack. That will actually help me to stop the password based attack. This is what I told you. Currently, those dictionary attack, brute force attack, rainbow attack, it is not technically possible because we have changed the security mechanism altogether. Correct? Local authentication. Now you can see this is happened on your particular machine. Correct? Now in Windows and in Linux, actually, there are two different ways to handle it. Now, if I say, okay, I will give you the example of Windows machine, so we'll get an idea. And Linux machine. Let's say I do have one Windows server, and this is my Linux server. Now they are talking about a file called as SAM file. Now I will tell you SAM file location. I will get all the location. Okay, I will see all the location over here. This is called a security account manager. It's a simple file. Okay, they are not giving you the location. Okay, I'm using.
Hey viewers, trying to get into DevSecOps? Enroll for our DevSecOps certified professional programs and earn the certification that shows you are fit for these technical roles and requirements. Contact info is mentioned in the video sidebars and in the description box. Book your seats for the upcoming batches now.
Windows 10. See, crap. Okay, now this is the location. System root config SAM. Now this is something which is available on Windows. Now let's understand what is this. This is called as local authentication. Okay. Now whatever authentication which I told you, that whenever server receive the request of username and password, he will ask some other database server. That means there would be another database server is available who can check the entries of the username and password is available over there, and who would be checking that username and password from there. Correct? So this is something he's doing for external authentication mechanism. Now one more mechanism is available called as local authentication. Correct? In local authentication, now this is the location they are giving you. This is the SAM file location, which is nothing but a security manager. It contains all the information about your Windows user. Okay? Whatever user which you are created on the top of Windows, you have an administrator user, correct? You do have some other user called as Mongi. You might be created a test user. Whatever user which you are going to create, and whatever password which you have for this particular user, all the password would be stored into this security access manager file. Yes, definitely these passwords are encrypted. It is not something a plain text password at all. It is encrypted password, but my system, whenever you logged into your system, correct, you can authorize your user with the help of local authentication mechanism. Now this is for Windows. Similarly, on Linux, we do have a file called as etc/shadow, where all the passwords are stored, which is again encrypted. Correct? I would be able to see all the passwords over here, but I won't be able to decrypt it. So this is called as local authentication method. Means the password file and authentication would be happened locally. Now in your case, it not be happened locally if it is Windows also. Windows do have another server called as Active Directory. Might be heard about it. Okay, in our enterprise environment, authentication would not be happened locally. Whenever you type the username and a password, you're not logged into your computer. You're logged into your computer with the help of the domain, which is a Capgemini. Correct? So he will go to the Active Directory for authentication. Correct? Sometime we do have another server called as LDAP. This is nothing but lightweight directory access protocol. This is nothing but Active Directory on the Linux. Correct? So if you want the authentication should not be happen locally, it should be happen over some other system. Then I do have the system called as Active Directory, LDAP. There is a system called as Kerberos. There are multiple authentication protocols are available who can help you to do the authentication externally. So rather going for local authentication mechanism, there is a possibility that I can have an Active Directory, I can have a LDAP server, or either I can have a Kerberos server, which we can help us, or which can help us in order to authenticate your username and password. Correct? Now this is what they are talking about in your local authentication mechanism. Correct? Now it could be biometric. Yes, definitely you should have that particular thing. Sometime it is a passphrase, sometime you push some numbers over there, sometime it's a token device if you have an additional token device. Correct? So anything which you can use it, it should be authenticate locally only. It should not go outside at all. Correct? Now this is SSO, that is called a single sign-on. Now this is also very briefed and optimized method for authentication. Correct? This is called a single sign-on. Now this is how I am going to explain it. Okay? Let's say I do have multiple systems. Okay, I am a normal user. Currently, we just delete this. We don't require it anymore. Okay. Now I am a user. Okay. Now let's do one thing. Let's. Okay. We will remove this. Okay. We will finish this SSO and then we will go for a break of 10 minutes. Okay. Now let's say I'm a client. Just a user, and whenever I logged into my machine, okay, I should authenticate it. My machine logged in should be authenticated from AD, Active Directory I have. Then I do have my Outlook password. I need to open my Outlook on machine. I will type a single password over there, which is a Outlook password. So it will authenticate my Outlook. Correct. After that, I do have a daily attendance or software over there. I would logged into that particular software. It is an HR based application where I would manage my attendance, how much time I'm working, everything. So I put the username and password for that HR. Then I do have my another applications which I'm working on it. For example, I'm working on CRM application. Correct. I need to log into that CRM application. Maybe I'm working on some two other application where they do have their own authentication mechanism. Now imagine I'm a single client, but my machine is logged in with Active Directory. My Outlook would be logged in with a different password. My particular attendance password would be different. My CRM password would be different. Maybe I do have some chat option or online chat support option. I logged into that particular chat option, that password is different. Plus I'm doing some miscellaneous application is also running, that password is different. Now you can imagine a single user can have so many passwords to log into the different application. Now to avoid such kind of multi-password environment, we are coming with the solution called as SSO, that is called as single sign-on. Okay. What I have done, I created a single sign-on on my SSO server or identity server, where I already configured these all servers over there. This SSO is actually connected to all my respective servers. Correct? I just need to create a username and password on SSO. That's it. Correct? And I will provide this username and password to my client. What will happen when this user logged in? Correct? Whatever username and password he logged in while logged into the system, correct? The same SSO password I have configured. So the same password will go to the Active Directory for authentication. Same password will go for your Outlook email for logged into the mailbox. Same password would be going to my HR user, what is the attendance management system. Same password would be going for my CRM, correct? Now you can imagine with the help of single sign-on, I'm using a single username and single password in order to authenticate multiple application here, correct? So this is very easy for a particular person who need to log in to multiple application at a given point of time. This is what they're talking about, single sign on, correct, which is called as SSO. Correct. This is very beautiful mechanism which we can use it of, and we will also make sure that this single authentication will help us to keep only single password and username. Correct. You can see this is very simplified option for authentication in enterprise environment.
Hey viewers, are you looking for formal training on SRE practices? Take our SRE program. This course will teach you how to successfully implement site reliability engineering in the modern day 24/7 services. Kickstart your SRE training today. Contact info is mentioned in the video sidebars and in the description box. Book your seats for the upcoming batches now.
Let's talk about next authentication mechanism, that is called as LDAP. This is a lightweight directory access protocol. It's a simple protocol which help us in order to do the authentication. It's the same like an Active Directory, but you can say this is typically the implementation of Red Hat, or you can say Unix based authentication mechanism. Our Active Directory, which is a Windows based service, is actually built on LDAP only, correct? It is a subset of LDAP. So LDAP actually store all the information about your all the username and password in directory like structure. Okay, and this particular LDAP server help us to go for authentication as well as authorization of your particular services. That's fine, correct? So this is the same thing which we are using to log in and authenticate a particular user. Next service would be called as certificate. Now this is very important thing which we have is digital certificate. If you look at our every website, you can look at this. There is a lock here. correct? Now the connection is secured, and you can see there is a certificate information. This is a certificate, correct? If you go to the issuer statement, okay, now this particular certificate is issued by DigiCert. Now DigiCert is a issuer, correct? Now what is this certificate based authentication actually? Now certificate based authentication is a mechanism which will help us in order to encrypt your data and decrypt your data with the help of public key and private key infrastructure. Now certificate plays a very important role in terms of websites. Now I'm accessing the data right now. You can check I'm accessing the email. Now you can look at this is particular lock is there. Now I'm able to log into my email. I'm able to access my email with a secured fashion. And I'm very much secured because the website which I'm accessing through it, that a website do have certificate, correct? I believe in this particular certificate and I will ensure that my data is secured. Whatever I'm accessing right now from this Wikipedia, okay, whatever communication which is happening between my computer and Wikipedia right now, it is completely secured. And I believe in that. Why? Because this particular Wikipedia do have a certificate provided by some authority, and that authority name is called as DigiCert, correct? This is called as CA, that is called as certification authority, correct? You can see in this PPT also it is mentioned, if you have certificate uploaded in your website, then I would believe on your website. I will make sure that I will do the transaction with your website. Why? Because I know that the communication between your website and my computer, it's completely secured because of the certificate, digital certificate, correct? It digital certificate contains a public key. You have a concept of public key and private key. Public key and private key is a public key infrastructure mechanism on which these digital certificates are working. So that particular company is sharing the public key to me. With the help of this public key, I will encrypt the data, correct? Certificate authority, a server issue the certificate. Now I told you that the certificate authority means CA. CA is a company or organization which I can ask for the certificate. Now Wikipedia doesn't get the certificate like this, correct? They need to pay for this particular certificate to DigiCert actually. They need to pay that company for this particular certificate. Now DigiCert is also not giving you the certificate like that. They will make sure that your authenticate user, your website is authenticated. Whatever information which you are putting and whatever communication which you want to do, it's a complete authenticated, correct? Now that particular complete authentication is there, validation is done, then only you will get a certificate. Then whatever certificate file which you received, you can upload that file to your website. So the client computer will actually check your website and he will make sure that whatever certificate which you have, my computer do have list of the certified certificate authority. He will check your certificate, validate your certificate, and will come to know that, oh, you are a valid customer, your certificate is not fake, it is valid, correct? Everything is valid, you are a genuine customer, I can talk with you with a secured fashion, correct? You can see our banking website, we are doing the transaction without any hesitation. The reason behind it, that particular website is certified. Someone certified that particular company, someone authorized him that you can use the certificate for your communication. So certificates is one of the important technique which we can use to secure our infrastructure. Okay, Now this is very important question that is called as access control list. Correct? Now access control list is something where you can control the access of resources. You can see like this. Correct? If anyone logged into your system, access control list will help me whether this particular person should he use the printer. It's a list. This is a complete resource actually. Access control list is a set of rules which is applied to your particular computer. Now, in case of computer, it is Active Directory would be handling this. We have an Active Directory. We can call it as a AD server. AD server will handle all the authorization with the help of access control list. In AD server, there is a concept called as group policy. Group policy means nothing but control access over the network resources. In the group policy, it is mentioned that what this computer user can access it, whether he can access the printer, whether he can access the folder, whether he can access any other server, whether he can access any other database or not. It would be written into the access control list. This is very important. Now, even you logged into your particular machine, you may not be able to install every software. You can check because that is a corporate computer. You are not authorized to install any particular software on that machine. Why? The first reason is you are not administrator of the computer. Secondary user is you are authenticated through your Active Directory. In the Active Directory, there is a group policy, and that group policy is nothing but it is a list of the things which you can authorize and the one which is not authorized. And in that list, it is clearly mentioned that you are not authorized to install any application. This is nothing but access control list. Access control list could be done that what activity you can do on your local computer or what activity you can do it on your network resources. Now you are working in a Capgemini, but you cannot access all the Capgemini network at all. You can only access what it is authorized to. Correct? This is called as access control list. Remember that this is also a very important if you want to go for access control list. Okay. Next thing is firewall. Now this is a very important device in order to handle the very big networks. Correct? Now firewall is a device which will be available at the entry point of your company or at the exit point of your company. So any traffic which is coming to internet to your organization, correct? Whatever traffic which is coming from the outside world to your organization, this is the first device where he need to go through. Now what firewall can do? Firewall can protect your traffic to come inside. Actually, he will do the filtration of your network. If I told my firewall port number 80 is only allowed it to come inside. Now you can, by default, you can go outside for every port, no problem. There is no restriction to go outside, correct? But whenever you want to come inside, there is a rule. I configured the rule that if anyone want to go to port number 80, it is only allowed. Other than port number 80, nothing is allowed. So if I have a web server over here, you can see the web server is over here. So someone want to access this web server, he's allowed it to come in, but he will go here only. Correct? You can see there is one more firewall over here to go further restriction. This is called as demilitarized zone. This is a special zone where you can have a restricted things. Correct? Now let's say this is my database server. Now I told my firewall to only able to allow the port number 80 to come inside. If someone try to access this particular database from outside, my firewall will discard him. Why? Because my rule says port number 80 is only allowed it. Correct? You're trying to access port number something which is made for a database, which is not allowed it at all. Correct? So firewall is a device who can block my unauthorized traffic which is coming. Now firewalls are very intelligent. Now firewall is not a separate device. You will get firewall plus router plus intrusion prevention system, intrusion detection system all in one. That is nothing but a next generation firewall. Correct? I told you that someone is doing DOS attack, continuously doing ping. My firewall is so much intelligent right now. It is intrusion detection system is there. If we find out, oh, someone is continuously pinging me, so that is some anomaly, some different behavior is there. So firewall will immediately react it and he will stop ping on their firewall automatically. So intrusion detection and prevention, that means closing that particular ping, that would also be done by the firewall nowadays. So somewhat this is something very, very advanced level security filtering devices which we have. Correct?
Thanks for watching. Want to study further? Join our training programs today.